Hi friends, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. The channel is TKD Health Tips. So in this particular video we are talking about the structure of a unit test, and basically we are going to talk about the structure of a test when we are working with an Apex unit test. Well friends, there are a number of things that we are going to do in order for us to have a real test. Well, of course, the first of these is we will be setting up some data for us to work with, and there are of course three parts that can be involved in this. Well, as I said, there are three parts, so let's discuss about what are those. The first, which is absolute necessary, is setting up some test data for us to run our test against. The second is that we want to make that test is in a definite test state. So it might mean that some field values are need to be set in a particular way, or that we have gone through a certain portion of a process. So in that way, so basically we need to set our data of a test in a particular state, which makes our second important step. So the final and the important thing we might need is some use of state that could be making sure that we are checking the sharing rules and the visibility criteria on certain records. Now, the friends, the reason I mentioned about test data and that needs to be created up from is that when you are working with the Apex unit test, we actually do not get access to the underlying database within the system. That effectively means if we have deployed in production, we cannot by default see any of the records in that production instance. This effectively means that we are supposed to create our test data for all our unit tests. So friends, we will be talking about this in more further detail later on, and some instances where we actually are able to see the data on the database. But consider it as a de facto fact that let's just take it as like written that we are going to need to create all the data that we need. So friends, some of the things we might be doing is basically creating an account, a contact, and a case, for example. So this might create the test data which we might have to work with. So basically we might need to have that contact to have the ability to have a tier 2 support, and we might need the case to be we might need that case to be created on a specific day to file a workflow. So this is going to be the test data state which we are going to need to set. And finally, we might be running this test as a contact center agent to ensure that certain sharing and visibility rules are in place. So basically, this is an example of setting up a user state. So you may be going through all of these three different ones of these as we go through right on your test. Normally, the first to create in the data set in the states are very closely coupled. In the ideal situation, you can create the data in the state exactly as you want, but often you are going to need to go away and create some other data and then going to modify the state of your initial test data through some different processes and workflows. Now done once we have done that, we are going to perform an action on this data. That's going to be the thing we are going to really test, basically the action which we want to verify. So if we are not taking any action, there is nothing to test because we know we have set the data in that way. Some examples of actions we might be testing are things like a button click and the action from it, like adding a record to the database or removing a record from the database, updating a record or changing its values, sending an email, or even some business validation which we are going to validate as a small unit of code. All of these different types of actions that we may take within the system are going to what are going to want to test and validate have and basically validate and change the which have changed our data in the way we expect. Now finally, once we have got the test data and we perform that action on it, we then want to assert and test the outcomes. We do this using one of the three system assertion methods within the Salesforce. Every test should have at least one of these asserts so that we can have a system not so equals method. Now system.assert equals method takes in three parameters, basically the anticipated value, the actual value, and then a message for when this, for errors if they are not equal, and validates if those two are actually equal. So system.assert not equals to the similar thing, but actually it checks that two values are different. And finally system.assert boolean to basically, as the boolean we all know it's about true and false, so it will assert that so that a message it will assert it will throw a message if that it is not true, so then it will throw a message. Now let's have a quick recap about the structure of our test. We start off by creating our test data, which may include some actual data, some state for that data, and some particular user state. Then we are going to perform an action which is going to modify that data. That's what we want to validate. So finally, we need to assert the outcome of the action to verify, and so that the state of the data is changed according to the way we have expected. And for that, we are going to use our system.assert methods. I really hope, friends, you have enjoyed this session and hope that you can provide your like, comment, and subscribe to this video. And don't forget to look into the